our dinner after the passing of Joanne Prisley. And so I would like for us all to have a moment of silence for Joanne and her family.
This afternoon I had Amber Hewitt, Sarah Boyd, Kathy Heck, Chris Ball, Vicki Matson to set the tables. Tonight in the kitchen we've had Sally Jo Wiley, Taylor Sappington, Gary Koosman, Carol Wiener, Carolyn Fisk, Janalee Stock, Roxanne Groff, Cheryl Poots, Brenda Smith, Amy Struhard, and I want to thank the Ladies Auxiliary. Of course, the college Dems, we couldn't do this without them.
The most recently elected official we have with us tonight, Bailey Williams, who just took over as head of the College Democrats. Bailey, congratulations. Those of you that went to the March for Our Lives in Athens that Bailey presided over, and I cried in the audience. I mean, that was an unbelievable thing that he and Ashley and the other College Democrats did. And he is up for re-election this year, and we should not forget it. He deserves our support. Many thank you. Steve? Nelsonville City Councilman and State Representative candidate Taylor Sappington. Taylor. City Law Director Lisa Eliason, who put everything together here. Kathy Heck, who also has been at the center of all the dinners we've had. Kathy Heck is our city auditor. Municipal Court Judge Todd Grace. Todd. City Councilman Jeff Reisner. Jeff. A new City Councilwoman, Sarah Grace. Sarah. Our candidate for County Auditor is here tonight, Dave Owen. Dave. City Councilwoman Chris Fall. Candidate for Congress, Rob Jarvis. Where's Rob? Candidate for Congress, Shauna Roberts. Shauna. Our sheriff, Rodney Smith. Athens Township Trustee Ted Linscott. Ted. City Councilman Peter Kotsis. Peter. Common Police Judge Pat Lang. City Council President Chris Nisley. County Treasurer Bill Bias. Judge Marie Hoover. We'll get to talk about the judge later on because the College Democrats are going to be introducing candidates, but Judge Hoover is up this year. She acts as if she's a resident of our county. She's here all the time. Judge, we really appreciate you being here again, and we're looking forward to supporting you. Leslie Markins, our county reporter. Ann Trout, county clerk reports, Ann. Eddie Smith, township trustee. Where's Eddie? Our county engineer, Jeff Maiden. Jeff. The other counties aren't like this, and Chairman Pepper can attest to this. When they go through the Democratic elected officials, it's a very short list. So we're very fortunate here in Athens County. So we're also very fortunate to have such a strong labor community. And we have the AFSCME family here today. John Johnson, Gary Arnold, and Deb Chonko. And we have Ted Linscott, who's the president of the Southeast Ohio Labor Council. And we really appreciate everything that Ted does, not just for labor, but for the party. He's been a stalwart, loyal member of our party family for a long time. So thank you, Ted.
Our Workers' Memorial next Friday, the 27th. It's uptown. You guys know the mural on the side of Lucky's Bar up there, which, yeah, it's kind of fitting, I guess, for me. But it's coal miners on the side of the bar up there. We kind of, labor movement in Athens County has kind of adopted that and squatted on there and cleaned out a labor corner right there. So we're going to have our annual Workers' Memorial Day. For these guys that don't know, every year on April 28th, we celebrate, not celebrate's a bad word, I guess, so we honor those that have fallen due to workplace injury or workplace illness.
Spend the least amount of money per student, but they have some of the highest test scores. Our school district is wealthy enough that the state says that we have to ante up if the state is going to give any more money. I've been working with a lot of teachers and parents, knocking on doors, talking about the issues. It's the unconstitutional school funding formula that's never been dealt with. Anybody who lives in the school district would like to sign, we'd love for you to get them up. And if anybody wants to go knock on some doors in the next couple weeks, let me know too. Thank you.
Sometimes these dinners remind me of church where the announcements are longer than the sermon. So Sally Jo, you have something for us.
Rally for city. And it's going to start at 6 o'clock with a potluck, and we're going to have some bands and a lot of fun. And then 8 o'clock, Dennis will roll with it, and Nina Turner and his Lieutenant Governor, Sarah Sample, thank you. No problem. And one of Bernie's left-hand man, it's going to be a lot of fun. Come up.
Thanks, Sally Jo. Vicki has something for us.
Athens Democratic Party Women's Club on May 1st, getting together at Eclipse at about 7 o'clock just to have a bunch of Democratic women hang out and talk about issues.
How I got to know Taylor. The homecoming parade at OU in September of this past year, and we were sitting there getting ready to march as part of College Democrats, and we see the College Republicans roll up, all of them dressed in J. Edwards t-shirts with J. Edwards along their side. And I remember standing there talking to Ashley, do we have anybody running in the 94th district? Like, we had Rick Neal announced, and I'm pretty sure, Rob, you were in at that point. And I was befuddled as why we hadn't had a candidate announced yet in the district. I was kind of worried about that. We and Ashley talked about potentially me throwing my hat in the ring just to make sure we had a candidate. But later that evening, I had talked to Sam Miller about if we had anybody running or why didn't we? And she goes, well, we do, but we got to keep it quiet for right now. He's not ready to announce it. And I'm like, oh, okay, who is it? And she goes, it's Taylor Sappington. I'm like, Sappington? I've never heard of this person. She goes, you should meet him. He's a really great guy. Later that week, when Sam and Zach Rises were having their typical meeting with Taylor, I got to sit in, I got to meet him. And I got to hear what he wanted to do should he be elected. I could tell that he was truly a person who cared very deeply about Southeast Ohio and really wanted to make a positive change. He grew up with probably one of the more difficult childhoods, and he's an amazing success story that is just a true role model.
I'm super excited to be running for the State House. I think we can win. I think this is a great year for Democrats, but more importantly, it's a great year for progress because I think it's undoubtable. You can't even argue. Progress has slowed and maybe even rolled back in the last couple of years. So this is our chance. I mean, when I announced my run, that Bailey was making me blush a little bit there, I asked a few questions. Anyone who would listen, it was why questions. Why is it that we have to drive on unsafe bridges down here in Appalachia? Why is it we have to drive on the worst potholed roads in Ohio? And more seriously than that, why is it that we have so many parents and kids who are alone today because of the drug crisis? And why is it that we have so many people who can't go to the doctor when they're sick or they're hurting, and when they do, they walk away with $20,000 debt on a good day? These are questions I think that I'd like to answer in the State House. Washington is a complete failure right now. They're messing up all these issues like healthcare, like infrastructure, and I think it's time that we answer them right here in the 94th, in Columbus. We answer those questions. No longer should somebody go to the doctor or be unable to go to the doctor, and if they do, they walk away with debt. No longer should students go to college and walk away with debt like my $43,000. I think that should end in Ohio. One of the questions I heard on the campaign trail was asked to my opponent. I appreciate Chris Smeal and his struggle and fight down in Alexander about unconstitutional school funding, because at an educational funding town hall in Marietta, my opponent was asked, why hasn't the State House done anything since getting a supermajority in 2016? And the answer, unfortunately, was, well, 2 years, what can you really do in 2 years? I'm on city council in Nelsonville. In 2 years, we balanced a budget that was the most in the red in city history. Less than 2 years. In 2 months after the State House shut down the prison, we fixed the budget and didn't lose a single union job after restructuring City Hall. We did that in 2 months. We can do a lot in 2 years. Universal health care can be in Ohio in 2 years. When you go to vote on primary day, May 8th, when you go to vote on election day, I hope everyone in this room asks, what can't we do in the next 2 years? Because that's what I'm here to answer. And I appreciate your support. So thank you. Thanks for having me.
Next up, I don't want to be the only one up here speaking, so I'm going to introduce several college Democrats up here to introduce some of the candidates that we have speaking. Jonathan Sweeney, up to the mic. Jonathan.
Hi, all the awesome Dems of Athens County. How are you? I'm here to introduce another awesome Democrat who's running for county auditor, Dave Owen, who is a devoted public official, 30 years serving in the local and county government, including as the chair of the Trimble School Board. Does a lot of amazing work. He's an awesome Democrat. We're awesome Democrats. Awesome Democrats. Vote for awesome Democrats. Let's have a round of applause.
Yes, I've worked in government for most of my adult life. Right now I'm president of the school board at Trimble. My father was also on the school board in Southern Perry that filed the DeRoth case against equity in school funding. So I work with school treasurers throughout the state of Ohio. I understand that this Democrat has never held the office of county auditor in Athens County. I understand it'll be an uphill battle against an incumbent. But you know what, I think we can do this. I think that it's time for change. It's time for friendlier people to work with. We have a chance to do something as a Democrat Party that's never been done before. Have a Democrat county auditor. So I'm asking for your support, and I hope to get to meet a lot of you that don't know me. And thanks a lot for having me here. Appreciate it.
Next up, I want to invite to the stage Andy Price. Andy served 2 terms as the OU-CD Communications Director.
How are you? My name is Andrew Price. I'm a senior graduate from here at Ohio University, and I've been a proud Athens Democrat since 2014. The man I'm going to introduce you today needs no introduction. He is a proud teacher of government in the Nelson City High School. He's fought for the unions in the state of Ohio. He's fought for public education. You can see the passion in his supporters' eyes. Actually, earlier this evening when the lights were off, the minute John Hazley said his name, the lights turned right back on. So I think that might be a sign. So today, I'm proud to support, and I'm proud to introduce to you Rob Jarvis.
Thank you for having me here this evening. It's always great to not have to drive 2 hours or an hour and a half or anywhere else across the 15th. To be able to come here tonight and to see so many familiar and friendly faces, it gives me energy, it gives me excitement. So, I am Rob Jarvis, and I am the high school government teacher from Tri-County, which is in Nelsonville, but still, teach government, teach economics, teach a little bit of U.S. history. Our campaign started with just a few volunteers in a room, bouncing ideas back and forth about how you can create a grassroots campaign that will reach people in 12 counties. The 15th is massive. And ultimately what we started doing was we started reaching out to the grassroots groups, because what we've seen since the 2016 election are all these grassroots groups and organizations that have risen up, like groups like Indivisible, who were out there looking for candidates like us, a campaign like ours. And so to be able to connect with groups like Indivisible and other progressive groups throughout the district has allowed us to spread a message across 12 counties that I don't think would have been possible 2 years ago, and I don't know if it will be possible 2 years from now. There is something special about 2018, and I believe that there's something special about our campaign, and I think it's in the messaging. We knew that if we were going to make this work, we had to have the perfect message in the perfect moment. Something that can reach people on both sides of the political aisle, and we have found that, and I can tell you exactly how it works right now. When I speak with people on health care, I talk about the economy. I ask them right off the bat, hey, do you know somebody who's stuck in a job that they hate because of health care, that they're too afraid to lose? And they say, oh yeah, of course, it's me, or it's my friend, or my neighbor, or my loved one. And I say, yeah, that's right. And how many people do you think would go out there and start their own business, or go back and further their education if they weren't trapped in job lock? And these people always say, whether they're liberal or conservative, well, we'd be seeing a lot more small businesses start up. I said, yeah, you would be creating an entrepreneurial renaissance in Ohio. Don't undersell it. This would be changing a paradigm shift in the economy and in healthcare. And when people say to me, oh, it can't be done, I say, it's been done. It's being done all over the world. The United States is 37th in quality of care, and yet we're #1 in cost. Tell me how that works. Well, it works because we haven't embraced the idea of universal health care. We haven't embraced the idea of letting your government negotiate down the cost of health care. And so when I talk about single-payer health care, I'm talking about it from an economic standpoint. What will happen to businesses if they no longer have to carry that cost burden? Will they raise wages? Will they expand? Will they hire more people? I believe that they will. And that's a message that connects with people regardless of their political party. When we talk about people over corporations, and I say to the people that I'm talking to, you know, your current congressman, he gets most of his money from private insurers, from banking in Wall Street, and from for-profit charter schools. And they say to me, well, I don't really like that. And I said, yeah, I don't really like that either. But the idea is that you're telling them, you're exposing the fact that corporations are buying our government. They are buying the political process, they are owning our democracy, and that has to stop. And that's something that transcends the party divide. And the responses that I get from people in Clinton County or Ross or Fayette or Franklin or here in Athens are all the same. Well, we need to do something about that. We have to stop that right now. And I say, well, then you should probably vote for me on May 8th and then again on November the 6th. When we talk about jobs, and we're talking about trying to create jobs that last and defend the jobs that are here, there's oftentimes when I tell a story. First good job I had was at Kroger in Athens on State Street. Okay? I was living in an attic, scrubbing pots and pans for OU for a few years, and then Kroger called me and I said, great, this is a job I want. It's a union job. They'll give raises, you know, they'll promote from within. And the first day I'm there on the job, I'm learning how to push carts and bag groceries. And the person training me, I start to notice everyone's wearing these armbands. And the guy says, well, we're probably going on strike. All right, so where's your union guy? And so they point him out, and I walk over and I said, is this true? We're going to be going on strike here real soon. He said, yeah, Rob, I'm sorry. I'm glad that you got hired, but we're probably going to be going on strike here in the next few days. I said, I don't suppose I'm protected by the union yet. He said, no, there's like a 90-day probationary period. So my first day at work, my first day on this job that I really wanted, I ended up signing my name to picket right alongside a union that wasn't even with me yet. But I knew what the right thing was to do. And it's why that throughout this campaign, I have been banging the drum for unions and organized labor. Everywhere I go, in all 12 counties, I've promoted an amendment to the Constitution, which we call the Union Amendment. We need to roll back these national right to work, whatever that they're trying to put into their state constitutions. It's unbelievable. And if we defend the unions in America, we defend the middle class in America. And when we're talking about jobs, I say, listen, we need to invest in green energy technology. And a lot of conservatives say, oh, typical liberal. And I say to them, well, look, why is it that ExxonMobil and big oil and gas need $20 billion a year of your tax dollars? You know, I watched the Beverly Hillbillies. I was under the impression that if I found oil in my backyard, I didn't have to worry about money anymore. And so when you say it like that, people say, oh yeah, well, I guess that doesn't make very much sense. And then when I point out the fact that if we transfer those subsidies into renewables, into energy conservation jobs, which already make up more than 100,000 jobs right here in the state of Ohio, well, now suddenly people are listening. But it's all in the messaging. And if you can reach people with the messaging on the issues, you can change their hearts and minds in that moment, and then they will change their vote at the polling place in May or November or whenever we need them to. But reach them on the issues. I am very proud to be a grassroots candidate. I am very grateful and humbled of my amazing team, many of whom are sitting right there. And where's Dottie? Where's Dottie at? Dottie has been an absolute fantastic help for me. She's always taken pictures. She's always given us information. It's been like a family. This experience has been something that I will never forget. And for the first time when I came up here and spoke, I remember thinking, I might pass out in front of all these people. Until now, obviously I've had a bit more practice. It's just so good to be home. And now let's see. It's April 19th. We've got, what, a little less than 3 weeks till the primary. Let's see if we can set the high school government teacher from Athens County up as the nominee so that I can take a congressman back to school. Thank you very much.
Adjunct faculty member from Shawnee State University and currently serves as the presiding judge and administrative judge for the 4th District Court of Appeals. Please join me in welcoming Judge Marie Hunter.
Good evening, everybody. It's exciting to be here. Out of the 14 counties, this is the largest group that I've seen. Woo. And the most energetic. It's great to see. It's great to be here. First of all, I want to thank you for having me this evening. And secondly, I want to thank you for your past support. And lastly, I'd like to thank you ahead of time for your support for the November election coming up. I was looking at the newspaper yesterday out of Chillicothe, because they're in our district also, and they had interviews of the 4 Republicans that are running for the Court of Appeals. And it started with the common thread among the 4 Republicans is diversity. And I looked at that and I thought, diversity! You know, I think it's very important that I stay on the Court of Appeals. For one thing, I was the first Democrat to sit on the 4th District in 17 years. I was the first woman to ever be elected to the 4th District. And the 2 men that are running against me are male and white. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but the diversity thing, it kind of went right over my head. I do think it's important, though. Over the last 5.5 years, I try to speak at as many functions as I can. Normally, when I go and speak to these groups, I try to speak to children. Because most of the time they look at me and they're like, well, you don't look like a judge. And I'll be, well, because I won't have my robe on yet. So then I get my robe and I put my robe on. And I'll say, do I look more like a judge now? And they're like, well, a little bit better. But I want to make it seem more normal to see a woman sitting on the bench and to see a minority sitting on the bench. I've spoken with the Supreme Court, with the Chief Justice O'Connor on things called the gavel gap, to where the judiciary needs to reflect the population. Women make up more than half of the population, and to not have a woman on the bench is not a good thing. So I think that's very important too. Another thing I picked up from this article was it didn't really say much. They talked about what their goals were as far as if they were elected. They talked about how they'd uphold the Constitution, and you know that I do that all the time. But they're really downing like judicial activism, and it's not that I'm a judicial activist, because I can't say that I'm a judicial activist. But when I make a decision, I try to look at it big picture. I try to look at it and make it make common sense to me. I have to make this make sense to me before I can make it make sense to people, to the district, to the state. So I always try to see, is this the right thing? Is this the right thing that happened? And if it's not, sometimes it's pretty obvious. Well, you write your decision to try to fix it. If that means it's called judicial activism, I don't know. I just don't think you should be blind and just apply the law as it's written just because that's the way it's written. So however you want to label that, I do want to let you know that I do try to figure out what the right thing is, and I try to apply the law to where it becomes applicable, and that's what I try to do, because the Court of Appeals is very important. It's more important than a lot of people are aware of. We cover 14 counties in southern Ohio, and we interpret the law. So if a Republican legislature is making the law, and if we have Republican judges on the Court of Appeals, obviously everything is going to be upheld that the Republican legislature's done. We have, even though I'm the only Democrat on the court, luckily we do have Judge Harsha, but he's retiring. Now he's a Republican, but he's very good about upholding individual rights. It's not like I'm alone. And as long as I am a persuasive writer, that helps move the law. It helps put it in the direction that I think this room would want it to go in. Thank you all for your support, and ask for your support in November, because I'd like to stay as the Court of Appeals judge for all of you. Thank you.
Another congressional candidate, but this time from the 6th District, Shauna Roberts. She's a small business owner, mother of 5, and a true ordinary American that is running to really replace somebody who does not care about ordinary Americans, who really cares about only himself and lining his pockets. So welcome you guys to Shauna Roberts.
Oh yes, I am Shauna Roberts, and I'm running in the 6th District against Bill Johnson. Bill Johnson has been telling everybody that things are better than they were when he started in 2010, but by most measurements, they're actually worse. He's doing a little gaslighting on the side. As a result, I decided that it was time to run. It was the last congressional district in Ohio that had no opponents running against the incumbent Republican, and my small group that had been working with me all summer on dealing with preserving our health care decided that that was inappropriate, and we decided that I was going to do it. So here I am. I am a mother of 5, which means, in my opinion, that I am pretty much well prepared to work in Congress. Not only are there babies in Congress, actually there's a real one now. Did you see? That's so cool. And a mother has to take the sometimes competing needs of many people and figure out how to move resources around so that everybody's needs are met. I am a problem solver. I raised my 5 children in a 3-bedroom house with 1 bathroom. You know that there are a record number of women running for Congress this year, over 494. The reason there are not as many women in office is because there are not as many women running for office. Because statistically, all things being equal, when they're running, they are as likely to win as a man. So if even half of these women get in, you will see an amazing thing happen in 2018. 2018 is going to be the year that everybody decided was the year that truly proved anything can happen. David Pepper here, who has been working on the Main Street Initiative at the Ohio Democratic Party level, which has been training candidates, and they are amazing. Truck drivers and social workers and teachers, and they have all stepped up this year because it was important to serve their country. And they have been doing an amazing job at making sure that these folks get the learning, get the teaching, get the training that they need in order to succeed. I am thrilled to be a part of it. I continue to be a little amazed that I am a part of it, but it's wonderful to watch. People like Bailey who are stepping up, older people like me, but everybody has decided that it's time to take our country and to turn it around to something that is wonderful again. It's time for us to be our own heroes. And I am stunned and happy and thrilled to be part of it. As everybody has said here so far today, we need to protect our labor unions. We need to make sure that the middle class continues to be a part of the United States. If we don't have the middle class, we have a very, very different place than we grew up in, and it will not be good. We need to make sure that our education system is protected, our health care protected. I lay down in the rain over in Rob Portman's office in Columbus, which was exciting to try to make sure that he didn't vote against it, which he did, but you know, that's Rob. His guy who runs the office there wouldn't let us lie down under the canopy because that's private, and he He was okay with us standing up, but when we went to die, he would not let us die. It dried, so we had to go die wet. And luckily it was a warm day, so it was okay. But it's been a wonderful, wonderful experience. I'm just thrilled to be here. I do want to say, Rob, Georgetown, Texas is 100% renewable energy. They've got about 25,000 people. They've got a Republican mayor. And the Republican mayor says it's cheaper and it draws businesses in to Georgetown because there are people in the country who like the idea of being able to tell people that they are a responsible user of energy. And so he says it's all 100% win-win for him. He also says that oil and gas is a mature industry, which is the proper word that I've been using for coal for months now. Mature industries are great. They keep people employed. Mine workers need their pensions, they need their health care, and they need their jobs. But we also need to grow. And the renewable energy sector is going to be something that we are going to benefit from a lot if we can get some decent infrastructure here, which is the biggest thing that I'm worried about right now. We need broadband, and we need roads that are not just one lane. We got a lot of roads closed part way because the slips on the hills have slipped roads right down the side of the hills, so we need to fix that too. So I really appreciate being here. I'm so grateful to have a chance to say hello to everybody. You should be very proud of yourselves because the country does not get better unless we each take on the job that we see in front of us, and you guys are doing that. So I'm just pleased as punch to be here. Thank you so much.
We have the greatest Democratic auctioneer in the state of Ohio, Rick Wasserman.
Went to a website called Act Blue, and I searched for the Athens County Democratic Party, and Athens County, Georgia came right up. So you got to flip it to Athens, Ohio. And I made a contribution that repeats every month to the Athens County Democratic Party here in Ohio. Put it on my debit card. You don't have to think about it. It'll just happen every month. And really, it's the easiest thing you've ever done. Benefit the Democratic Party. Do I have a bid for $50? Who can set it in for $50? $50.
College Democrats. He also serves on Student Senate, recently elected.
My name is Stephen Sponauer. I am a sophomore here with the Ohio University College Democrats, and I have been given the honor of introducing our next speaker. He's been doing a lot of really great work for our state and for our party. Having a good leader is important, but especially in the year 2018 with the important midterms coming up. Well, he's been traveling all over the state, engaging in the Main Street Initiative. That kind of tactic is super important, especially this county is a county that gets skipped over all too often by politicians on the campaign trail. Please welcome our next speaker, Chairman David Pepper.
Thank you so much. It is so great to be back here. But first of all, let's give a round of applause to your great chair, John Hazley. I think I first came here in either 09 or 10 when I was running for state auditor. It's great to be back. And I was also relaying that it was at this same venue in 2012 where Bill O'Neill convinced me that he was actually going to win that race. There are a couple things I learned when I came through here. There is no better group of college Democrats in the state than the OU Democrats. And there's no county party that does a better job of embracing and incorporating their college Democrats into the county party's activities. And you see it here tonight. Again, this is unique. It's no surprise that the college Democrats from here end up going on to doing the kind of things you've done and your leadership has done with the state Democrats. This is a really amazing pipeline of leadership coming out of the OU Dems, and you guys really, really do a great job. We are growing as a party, and one of the people we hired about 6 months ago was Dave DeWitt. From the paper here, but now he's helping us spin out our message. What a wild last week it's been. Every week seems crazy with Donald Trump, right? Did you all see that Giuliani is now just been hired on as Trump? That was just today. He's going to be one of Trump's lawyers. Did you all see that crazy Sean Hannity news a couple days ago? Comey wrote a book. Doesn't make Trump look very good at all. Did you all see that Donald Trump's doorman now has things to say about Donald Trump? First time in 50 years an Ohio speaker has resigned. Within a few days, Paul Ryan also said he's resigned, cementing himself as the worst speaker in the history of our country. Do you all know what the most important thing that happened the last week was? Connor Lamb got sworn in
from the Pennsylvania 18th District. What's the lesson? The lesson is, don't get distracted by the crazy stuff. Run good candidates, vote, and we will win. What does the Connor Lamb win tell us? All of us should stay focused on winning elections and not running around freaking out every time something happens out of D.C. or Columbus. Connor Lamb was not shy about embracing labor. Connor Lamb leaned in hard to talk about supporting workers and opposing right to work for less. He didn't just sort of dance around it like some Democrats do, and it made a real difference in his race. We should be running everywhere. You run everywhere if you're Democrats in this cycle with good candidates, you can win anywhere. And if we can have Connor Lamb sworn in a district that I think Trump won by 20 or so, we can win anywhere. For the first time in years, learning the lesson that Connor Lamb won, we have a candidate in every single one of the 99 state house districts in the state of Ohio. Everyone. In every one of the 17 state senate races. We have a candidate in every single congressional district this year. 65 of the candidates for the state house and state senate are women. 13 of the Democratic candidates for Congress are women. The Republicans gerrymandered because they didn't want to get called out. Steve Stivers wanted to be able to run around the country and raise money for all the people he's trying to bail out right now without worrying about his own backyard. Those state house members didn't want someone like Taylor saying what he said tonight about the condition of his district. Their whole goal was to avoid competition or challenge or accountability. Not one Republican this year gets a pass. They all face tough opponents. The Main Street Initiative is actually about mainly local candidates. Well, I can't believe Athens County Democrats are so nice to let the Republicans have that county auditor position for so long. So this year that ends, right, Dave? Flood the zone. Great candidates at every level. Authentic, with stories to tell. We have wonderful candidates. Sean, I love what I already tweeted out what you said about being a mom of 5, so that gets you ready. You know, Taylor's video went viral. He put out his story. And one of you is going to work for Abtab Purlball from Cincinnati. This is a once-in-a-generation talent coming out of Cincinnati who I think will win that congressional district. Up north, Ken Harbaugh. The worst part about him is his last name, by the way. 9-year naval aviator, leaves Yale Law School, works at McKinsey, a very fancy consulting shop. He could have gone anywhere in the world, cash out, do what Mitt Romney did. You know what he did? He took that experience and he helped start and co-lead an organization some of you may have heard of called Team Rubicon. Veterans doing emergency relief all over the world. It's like the Red Cross for veterans. They show up where hurricanes have hit. While doing all that in Cleveland, Ohio, now he's running for Congress up there. He's another one of these red to blue districts. That's the kind of talent, stories that we have running. So every level this year, we have wonderful candidates. There will be winners that nobody expects. You want to give Democrats and voters many reasons to show up on Election Day. This happened in Virginia. Ralph Northam, the new governor, he's a good candidate, but he wasn't the most dynamic candidate in the world. But all across Virginia, they were great state rep candidates, just like Taylor. Ralph Northam won by 8, more than anyone else expected, because there was so much energy for those down-ticket candidates. And that's what we have in Ohio this year. We have a reverse coattail going on, where people are so excited about candidates like Rick Neal or Rob Jarvis or Abtab or Sean and others that are lifting turnout. If you wanted someone to fight for health care, now you got a congressional candidate to vote for. If you want to clean up your local roads and get more infrastructure, you got Taylor Sappington to vote for. If you want to protect your right to vote, you got Kathleen Clyde to vote for. If you want an attorney general and an auditor who clean up the corruption in Columbus as opposed to being part of it, you got Zach Space to vote for. You got Steve Nettelbach to vote for. If you want a treasurer who actually wants to be treasurer, you don't have to worry Josh Mandel's not on the ballot. You get to vote for Rob Richardson. So basically, up and down that ballot, there's so many reasons to show up, and that is one of the best ways that we're going to also make sure we re-elect Sherrod Brown and when the governor's office, flood the zone strategy. So everything we care about is on the ballot this year. Who cares about ending gerrymandering like I do? We get to end gerrymandering. Please, please, please vote for issue 1. If you had told me 3 years ago we had the opportunity to curtail gerrymandering of both the State House and Congress, I wouldn't have believed you. Who helped get petitions for issue 1? Thank you so much. That you guys made all the difference. This was an issue that a year ago the State House Republicans were laughing. We're not going to touch congressional gerrymandering. Are you kidding me, they said? 4 weeks ago when it went on the ballot, they literally said, we're so proud of the reform that we helped lead. See, that's what 200,000 signatures will do. You scared the heck out of them, and now all of a sudden, it's not only on the ballot, but they're taking credit for it. Thank you for doing that. We get to end gerrymandering this year by electing Kathleen Clyde and Zach Space. We also, in our governor candidate, we lock in the ability to fulfill the mandate of Issue 1, because there will be a lot of pressure on Republicans to not do that. Make sure we don't let that slip. One of the most important parts about 2018 is the opportunity we have to answer one big question. Do we continue the current direction of the state of Ohio, or do we change it? It's a very simple question. That is the question that is asked when you have an open seat for governor. Mike DeWine or Bill Johnson or whoever will tell you things are great in Ohio. We don't need to change anything. I give Kasich a lot of credit, by the way, on national issues. I'm glad someone on the Republican side is willing to say things about Trump. Good for him. I appreciate that. I think we should all say that. I wish people like Rob Portman would take some lessons from that. But I can't give Kasich a lot of credit on most of his policies as governor. This state, I believe, and this is what this year's all about, needs a dramatic change. For 7 years, thank you Barack Obama, we've been going through a national recovery. But most of the state isn't feeling that. I mean, it's really sad. And I say this, you know, the Republican chair, who I debate with all the time, and I usually win, she always is saying, David, you're being so down on Ohio. She says, when did being negative ever work? I want to say, did you not watch the 2016 election? But I say to her, I was literally elected most likely to be president of the Cincinnati Board of Tourism in college. Because all I did was brag about Ohio. The state of Ohio, I don't talk about because I don't love Ohio. I love Ohio so much it frustrates the hell out of me that we're not doing any better than we are. Because this state is great. We have all the wonderful assets that should make us strong. But amid 7 years of a national recovery, we have had 7 years of trickle-down economics from Columbus. It's been one basic trick. Take from local, your schools, your counties, right, Lenny, your cities. Mayor, you've dealt with it. Take it all from here, ship it to Columbus, and give it out as a tax break for those at the top. That's the, quote, Ohio model. Raid the local. It's trickle-down economics. And you're all Democrats in this room. What do we know about trickle-down economics? It never works, ever. It didn't work when Bush did it. It doesn't work when Sam Brownback does it in Kansas. We got some states in this country where they only have school 4 days a week because it doesn't work, and teachers are now protesting because they're underpaid, and it's not working here in Ohio. So what has 7 years of trickle-down economics gotten us, folks? We are now in our 63rd consecutive month of trailing the average job growth amid the national recovery. Every month there's some average number, and every month we're below it here in Ohio. It hasn't helped us to do this trickle-down at all. Our wages are where they were 30 years ago. Our unemployment rate, don't brag about it because it's better thanks to the national recovery than it was. But we're somewhere in the mid-40s every month, as in worst. A couple months ago, we were 47th in the country, tied with West Virginia in our unemployment rate. The Ohio miracle? Are you kidding? Outside of few cities, and I'm a former county commissioner, I was a county commissioner like Lenny was in the middle of the recession. So I know what it felt like. Furloughs and wage cuts, and it was awful. I had to lay off people in my county because it was so bad. You go around the state today and pick up newspapers, many communities are still doing all that stuff. It's as if the recession never ended for many places in Ohio. Now, how in the world that happened? Because by taking all those local funds, this state house has continued the recession for too many places, which has led, the trickle-down has been, take that money and that ends up meaning lower wages, furloughs, layoffs all around the state. So it's not an accident that here we are as a state amid a national recovery, not doing nearly as well. In many parts of our state, it still feels like the recession never left. It's horrible. That's just the economy question. Do you realize that we are the leading state in the country, not number 30 or 40, we are number 50
in the amount of debt on our young people for student loans. Number one in the country. Think about what that means for your state. Think about what that means for long-term economic growth. How, again, does that happen? Trickle-down economics. If you're short funding your education system, money's coming from students and families paying. Terrible. You all know this. We're one of the leaders in the country in the opioid crisis. Are we somehow more addictive than other people in other parts of the country? Is there something more wrong with us? No. The heroin crisis really exploded in about 11 and 12. If you're going to deal with a heroin crisis, who deals with the heroin crisis? Your local police are the ones, and fire are the ones who show up for that overdose run. Your counties are the one doing, and agencies, a lot of the treatment. It's your schools, if well funded, that can do the best prevention. Well, guess what? The minute that crisis hit, all those entities got their money taken from them. We tied the hands behind the backs of the very agencies and entities that would deal with that crisis the moment the crisis exploded. No wonder we're doing so badly there. And on our school situation, and I promise I'll stop with this one. The Republican chair says I'm being too negative, but I want to make this point clear. This is the decision we have this year. When Ted Strickland was in his final year as governor, we were ranked 5th in the nation in the quality of our public education. Do you know where we're ranked now? After 7 years of taking money and 7 years of a for-profit scam for these for-profit charter schools that is basically pay to play, we're 22nd and falling. You're not going to succeed long term if you're going from 5th to 22nd. That's the state of things in Ohio. And I want to mention the ECOT thing. ECOT is the worst of the for-profit charter schools. Someone asked me last week, hey, are you surprised that Cliff Rosenberger resigned from a pay-to-play scandal? Apparently he was doing pay-to-play with the payday lenders. I said, no, I'm not surprised. The state legislators have been giving these for-profit online schools huge amounts of money, and every time a student is convinced to leave a public school to go become an online student, that company gets about $7 grand or so. Tens of thousands of kids have done this, or supposedly done this. Well, it turns out that the for-profit school can only account for about a third of the kids. They weren't taking attendance, but they were getting $7 grand per kid. Everyone looked the other way, including Dave Yost, including state legislators. What's the one thing consistent with everyone who looked away? They were all getting tons of campaign money from that for-profit charter school. It's a massive pay-to-play scam. It's far worse than CoinGate, by the way. It's a lot more money, and the victims aren't just lost coins, it's actually lost education in kids and families. So when they said to me, are you surprised that Cliff Rosenberger resigned because of a pay-to-play scandal? I said, no. If you are willing to sell your kids out to the highest bidder, there's nothing you won't sell. And that's what they've done in Ohio. So the opportunity of 2018 is very clear in Ohio. Mike DeWine is more the same, folks. And we need to change. If you want to end the current direction of trickle-down and pay-to-play and a culture in Columbus, it's too cozy, too old boy network. There's a new rep resigning about every month up there if you haven't seen it. The whole culture needs to be broken up, and that's why having candidates like Taylor is so important. We need some new folks. But this is our opportunity, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to change the direction of state that on every measure should be doing better. We are a great state, but it's the leadership and the policy decision-making and the coziness up there that's holding us back. And I want to leave you with the optimistic part of this. The good news is, this is actually exactly when we've won the state in the past. I know it's been a horrible year and a half. I know there's a lot of new activists because of it. In the last 50 years, and I always joke, John, that I wish someone had told me this before I'd run statewide in 10-14. We have never won statewide when we have been in the White House. Never in 50 years. When they've been in the White House, we've gone on to win every single time except when George Herbert Walker Bush had his one term. And we did that right after they had Ohio being red, by the way. 68, Nixon wins Ohio. 70, Jack Gilligan wins the governor's race. 2006, Ted Strickland wins the governor's race. But maybe the best example of the kind of year we can have if we do our jobs is in 1980, Ronald Reagan won Ohio by more than Donald Trump did. He won by 11. And at this exact moment, in April of 1982, Some of you might have been in a room like this. You were probably thinking, oh my gosh, we're so red. Reagan won by 11. We don't even know who our governor candidate is because it's a primary between some guy named Jerry Springer, some guy named Brown, some guy named Celeste. Oh my God, we got this really liberal Senator Metzenbaum. He's up. How's he going to win in a state that Reagan won by 11? You know what happened, right? Celeste won by 21 points. Metzenbaum won by 15. Because in Ohio, at least, Democrats seem to get more excited after we lose, which is a bad habit. And the independent voters seem to like a little bit of balance. We have an opportunity because of the energy coming out of the Trump White House. It's energized Democrats and all the marches we're seeing to actually take advantage of that, remake that history, change the direction of a state that badly needs that change. I want to close by talking about the other huge opportunity that's on the ballot, and this is even bigger. We have to change the direction of the state. I brought a show and tell with me today because I had an amazing morning. Some of you will know if you follow me on Facebook. I have a 4-year-old son and a 16-month-old son, and this morning I had the awesome responsibility to read to my older son's class. So I brought one of my favorite books. Who's read Horton Hears a Who? I always read these books to my kids thinking, if only the people in Washington read these children's books, they'd behave so much better. There's so many great lessons in all these kids' books, right? The Places You'll Go, what an incredible book that is. So I'm reading to these kids, and the point is, every day, and I appreciate what Rob said about driving, all the ways we do, and I drive every day as well. And I drive away from my little kids, and I love my 2 little boys. Why do I do it? And I looked at these kids this morning. This is going to sound negative as well, but I'll just say it. One of the things that keeps me driving every day is the fear that my son Jack and my son Charlie would turn 11 and 9 and Donald Trump would still be president. In that little classroom this morning, this great little group of little boys and girls, diverse as can be, that when they're 11 and 9, that Donald Trump is still president. And your groans affirm for me what keeps me going. Because I want you to think about what that would mean if we let that happen. That means 4, maybe 5 Supreme Court justice picks, just like Gorsuch. That means nothing done on climate change except bad things. None of the kind of things that Rob talked about. That means the continued this horrible face that we're putting out to this world about who we are as Americans. Attacks on health care, deficits as big as the eye can see because of these tax giveaways. It means years of people like Pruitt. Even if they replace them, it'll be more of the same. You saw who they just put as number 2. DeVos. It'll mean years of the kind of racism and misogyny that isn't just coming from the White House, but is bleeding down into schools and on our streets and graffiti on our buildings. Bottom line, if my sons turn 11 and 9 and it's Donald Trump's final year as president, this country will look both very different and frankly horrible versus where it even is now and where it was only a few years ago. And if that can't motivate you to do something, as Shauna said at the end, whatever you can do, I don't know what can. And that's the opportunity of a lifetime if you are a Democrat in the state of Ohio in 2018. Now, why do I say that? We normally think of ourselves as Democrats in Ohio, or as Ohioans, hey, we're cool because we're this swing state, right? Hey, where we go, the country goes. I hate to tell all of us this. That wasn't true in 16. We weren't swing at all. We were 8 points. It was a shellacking. As Rob said, it wasn't the right message. We didn't have an 88-county strategy. We didn't have candidates in every district that we do now. 8 points. So when they're looking around the country for swing states, they don't look at us. They look at Michigan. They look at Virginia. And by the way, those states I expect to be blue. They better be, right? Pennsylvania better be blue in 18 or we got problems. Virginia better have been blue. Now, I didn't expect Alabama, but I also didn't expect Roy Moore. But Ohio is the state that people think,
I don't know what will happen in Ohio. It was so red, it's kind of a Trump state. It's kind of a red state now. There's our opportunity. In this moment of history, where the whole world is watching us wondering, does this country believe in Trump? They're kind of giving us a little bit of a break. Well, they must not have known. Well, now they're asking the question, and the question is being called this November. Does this country stand with Trump? You want to send a message that we don't? You want to put the brakes on the Trump era quick? You turn Ohio blue in November of 2018. That is the single most important way you can do it. And when I say turn Ohio blue, I mean we re-elect Sherrod Brown, right? We re-elect Sherrod Brown. But folks, it doesn't stop at that. You want to really send a message? You elect Shauna Roberts to Congress in a district where people don't expect, like Conor Lamb. That's turning Ohio blue. You knock out Steve Stivers running all over the country raising money and ignoring his own district. You want to send a message that Donald Trump is failing. You knock out the guy who's running their entire effort on the other side. And by the way, I want to say something about Bill Johnson and Stivers. You know, for the life of me, I was just in Logan a few minutes ago before I came here. And the idea that these guys are running around and doing all this, the state of small and mid-sized towns in Ohio is, to use a term, deplorable. Empty storefronts, opioids through the roof. I told candidates, if I were running for these districts, I would just go take my camera everywhere and take photos and say, what in the world are you doing about this, Steve Stivers? And the answer will be, if you track the votes of Steve Stivers, every vote he takes that is related to his district actually undermines his district. He makes it harder to get infrastructure in there. This is true of the State House as well. And they make it harder to get health care in there. They're taking away Medicaid expansion. So these candidates should be vulnerable if these towns are paying attention to how they're voting. But the point is, if you want to turn Ohio blue, you win not just the Sherrod Brown race, but you surprise the world and win races in the way that Conor Lamb did. You win not just a few swing districts for the State House, but you win 9 or 10 of them. You win in a big way. Maybe you take the majority back because of all that scandal. You want to send a message that the Trump days are numbered? You end gerrymandering in Ohio once and for all by winning in May and November. You do all these things, folks, and we are playing at this moment in history a very outsized role by being Ohio Democrats. And let me just talk about a few things that can happen if we do this. And I believe this. You send the world a message that if Trump is really failing in even places like Ohio, he's failing. That's a very important message to send. I hope we send a message to people like Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Stick around a couple more years. It's not going to be that long. Trump's days are numbered. Don't you go anywhere, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. All kidding aside, my gosh, does Rob Portman a backbone or what? I mean, is he one of the most disappointing figures you've ever seen? Well, if he's going to run around scared, let's make him scared of us. And the best way to make him scared of Ohio is to be blue this November and show him that next time Betsy DeVos comes up or Scott Pruitt comes up, you better not vote for them because we're watching and we're blue now. That's the kind of impact we can have. So bottom line, there is a moment here where we can, on one ballot, we can change the direction of our state by electing up and down the ballot this wonderful group of people. But bigger than that, at this moment in history, we can, by turning Ohio blue, make a big difference in putting an end to an era that I know we all want to end as quickly as possible. I look forward to working with all of you to make that happen. Thank you all very much. It's great to be with you again.